All right. So we learned not to do that. So I brought in this one, but you see there's slots right here, right? And so what I'm talking about, this one's a little different, but you get it so it's right where it's in the neutral spot and wants to stay. But you look at it and go, well, that'll make the points open. That's neutral. I'm exaggerating a bit. So if that makes the points open, I'm going to put it in so the stud is here, and then rotate it, and the points will open. Okay. Every now and then, you'll get one where you'll put it on with the stud all the way to this side over here, and you'll put it in, and you'll get it, and you'll try and fine tune it, and the stud hits over here. So then you're like, ah, dang, I missed a tooth. So take it off, put it, try it again. And now the stud hits over here and not over here. And it's like there's not enough room right there to go back and forth. So what do you do about that? I mean, you've tried everything. Tooth this way, tooth that way. There just isn't enough room to get it in there. Right. So I've seen a lot of mechanics. They'll take a little Dremel, but a big Dremel because it's a big lot of meat, and you just kind of enlarge it a little bit. So you're saying no, don't do that? Yeah, that's not an approved thing. So, but seriously, I mean, you've done it. I mean, 20 times. And this is what happens. I mean, they're just there like all day. It's like every time I put it in, it's like either too far this way or too far that way. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah, throw it away and get it in.
All right, so the drive gear.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, if you look real carefully, so this helps you go 90 degrees. So if you look up here, you got a V right there. If you come down here, you got a tooth right there. So this will blow your mind. If you take it off and rotate it, it's the same thing as moving in half a tooth.
That's really interesting. And good to know.
Some manuals will tell you exactly which way to put it on, so you don't ever have to guess, but it goes on both ways. So you got to know that. Yeah. We're working on the slicks. Thank you. I was going to say light coming. Slicks, you have the three holes. You have the left,
Right. Laser.
and X for the laser ignition. What is the laser ignition? It's like their electronic ignition. Oh, take it back. It's because you're using a magneto, so obviously it's not electronic. It's their slick start, or I think it was like an advanced, it had a little advance to it or something. I don't know. Can't do it the mag. Anyway, it's like their starting system and stuff. So
Seems like it has problems.
I've never had a customer ever had one, which is weird. So I don't know. But anyway.
Don't exist.
So don't use the X unless you have the laser ignition. Otherwise, left means that it is the
Left-hand rotation.
left side magneto.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that means it rotates to the left. When viewed from the, and it says right on the data plate, ROT, left. An R is for the right. Okay, and so behind there, inside that gear, there are a bunch of holes. And for example, the left would line up with this, the right would line up with this, and the X would line up with that, or something like that. And so each one of these holes you can see is a little bit different space from the teeth. And if we go back a slide or two, so it should be here. This one is set from the center line different from this one. That one's really close. That one's kind of in the middle. That one. So in a new magneto, everything was out great. But one that's been here for many years and has been abused, these holes get all wallered out. And you can actually manage to fit the pin through the L hole into every hole behind it. And so you have to be careful with that. And just, I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't designed that way. So if you run into problems, that's what it is. All right, so the thing goes in there. It goes down the shoulder. You guys have had experiences. If you put the pin in and you decide to rotate this, or you just put the pin in, you drop it in, you're like turning it till it falls in a hole, this finger will come around and just bend that over like that. So, right, we've all been there. Okay, so I know what this slide's about. This is a fun one. There was a company, Fresno, who was selling at least, unapproved parts. And this is back when it wasn't a thing. We didn't really hear about unapproved parts. And then these people decided that, as the FAO put it, that there was more money in selling used turbine wheels and such than it was selling heroin, and it was really not a big deal. And so people were going to the parts bins behind, United and stealing things out of the dumpster and selling them back to United at full price, and so it became this huge thing. It's all we heard about in the industry was SUPs, suspected unapproved parts. I mean, there was forums we had to do, videos and turn it to, and so it was pretty interesting. And then one morning I came to work and we got something in the mail that, I think it's actually an airworthiness directive. The following companies have been buying parts from, I think it was Fresno, and putting unapproved parts in their engines. Like, oh my gosh, because I knew one of our guys was buying a lot of stuff from them for the old engines. And as I was told, allegedly, that they were making their own boxes that said like Continental Motors and all kinds of stuff. And so they were selling parts. Well, one of the ones they were doing, these gears were kind of hard to find. So I'm going to just kind of let you look.
What's up with these Fresno people?
I got same gear. Okay. Which one would you put in your airplane? This one's been beat up a little bit. Pretend like it's not. That tooth damage isn't there. You take it.
I don't know.
Which one's nicer?
This one nicer?
Yeah. Which one's nicer? Which one did you put in your airplane?
I don't know which
This is
one.
nice. Huh?
What did you just say?
Overlook the damage on it. Which one looks like it's better? Higher quality.
Magneto is the fake one.
Okay. Looks better made, higher quality. That one. This is the unapproved part.
Oh,
That's the one that's coming apart in the engines.
That's funny.
Notice the difference between
Yep.
thickness right here,
Yep.
between here. But look how nice that is.
I was just gonna
This
say.
has some gear damage, but inside, that's not damage. That's the way it looks. Like this one is smoother than most of them. Wow. Inside here. So you can see why. Look, that's gorgeous. It's a nice gear, but it's really thin right there. It comes apart.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So overlook
Yeah.
the shininess of it.
Yeah, so there's an AD out on those, I believe. Okay, let's tell you that one. This is called a lunchbox magneto. Anybody want to guess why it's called a lunchbox magneto? It's like an old-timey lunchbox like my grandpa had. And you have that on there. And we used to overhaul these. I think we were one of the few shops in the United States that would overhaul them. And they're kind of cool. I mean, it's the same operating principle as any magneto, but it uses a little drum up here. That little drum comes around and has the electrodes. There's one here and the one over there. And those electrodes run around and hit the cigarette up here. It slides down in there. And if you want to be authentic, there's a little window here with a little pointer, and that pointer goes to up here on the helical cut gear. There should be a white tooth, and that points to the white tooth. And the white tooth would tell you that you're at top dead center.
Or the firing for
Number one, okay. And right there's a little circle. Okay, that little circle got a little arrow with these little nice little fins on it that showed which direction it went. And up here there's 4 little dots. Well, those 4 little dots told you the firing order of the magneto.
Sounds a lot better than pins.
Notice what I just said. The firing order of the
Magneto. Not the engine.
So we'd send them out. This is before I got involved. I would just kind of stand back and go, I can see a problem. Because it was like clockwork. This guy would overhaul them, and he did a really wonderful job overhauling them. And then he had all the little stickers made, and he put them on. It looks so nice, and be 1, 2, 3, 4 on there. And you could just count like clockwork, you know. Magneto's going out in the mail today. Continue to put it on. 5 days we'll get the call. Phone rings. You guys overhauled my lunchbox. Yeah, we did. Yeah, well, the thing's a piece of crap. It won't work. Switch to 2 and the 3 leads. You'll be fine. Yeah, it's just the firing order. The numbers are not the cylinders. It's the firing order of the magneto. And so they would do it. 1 went to 1. 2 went to 3. 3. Oh yeah, so put the number 2 to the number 2, which was actually the should have went to 3. The 3 went to the 3, which should have went to the 2, and then the 4 went to the 4, which is supposed to. So 1 and 4 worked just fine. Yeah. So when I got to be king, I had tags printed up, and we attached a tag to every one of them that said the numbers on the magneto are the magneto firing order. The firing order is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have a 4-cylinder engine, 1 goes to 1, 2 goes, and that eliminated that problem. Okay, we're not going to do induction talk, I don't think. This is induction system air filters. I think Larry's going to cover all that. Exhaust systems.
What is, wait,
Wait.
the little porcupine thing?
The torture device. All right, so I guess we can just spend a minute here or two. Important to note. So these are your typical air cleaners these days. I'm a big fan of the bracket. And so if you have I think this is the paper element. I haven't seen a paper element in decades, but aircraft came with these paper element filters, and they're reasonably expensive. And then there's a company called Bracket came out with this thing, and you bought reasonably cheap. They sell you a frame, a bolt on, and inside of here is just a foam air filter. And I want to say, this is a small one. My airplane is twice the size of that. I want to say it's like $15 maybe. You know, like these before, COVID and all, that was like a $7 part. And so where I was working, oh my gosh. All right, because if you experience this, it's just put your tools in the toolbox and just go, hey, thanks for letting me play along. But I was hired during a bad recession, and so I was lucky to have an airplane job. But anyway, so, you're the new guy, and they're doing an annual. Okay, do the filter. Well, what do you want me to do? Oh, God, I'll show you. You guys, you new guys, you don't know anything, man. Went to school, you don't know anything. So take out the filter, and you bring it over here to the solvent, and you wash it all out, and you squeeze it, and you blow it dry. How many minutes in this? 15, 20 minutes. Blow it dry, then we're going to take it out here into the sun. We're going to let it sit for a while, then flip it over after a little bit. Then we're going to bring it back over here. We got this AMSOIL stuff. It's like honey, and you spray it in there, and you kind of squeeze it, and you recondition it, and then you put it back in. Cool. That took me 30, 40 minutes of labor for a $4 part that should say every 12 months, regardless of hours used, and at the hourly intervals used as service when,
Or when operating and externally, blah, blah.
somewhere on it, I think it's on this one. Do not clean and reuse. So this is a throwaway item. It's protecting a 20-some thousand, or now, shoot, a 6-cylinder is going to run you 40 to 60,000. So talking about a $60,000 engine. Yeah, just throw it away. Those are K&N. You guys know how to do those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
K&N cost me a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I put one on my Mercedes E500, 2 of them, and that oil got on the mass airflow sensor.
Yeah.
That's like an $800 part.
The oil from the air filter?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
You get it on your mass airflow
Just
sensor. You're
don't.
buying a new.
Just
Does it run dry?
Huh?
Yeah, just don't use a cane in
Oh yeah, and
Anyways.
when your mass airflow sensor goes out, I don't know about your car, but I've had 2 Mercedes where they went out. It won't even shift.
it. Yeah, they completely shut down.
Yeah, it starts. It's insane.
If you
That's right,
unplug
you
it,
were
it will
saying-
run actually better.
Yeah.
Unplug your mass airflow.
Oops. Okay.
That's what you said, yeah, it throws up almost every signal.
Yeah. That won't shift. It won't. Okay.
No, even that, like it literally won't.
The air filter has oil in it.
Oh, just like impregnated.
You clean them. Yeah, you put this red oil, spray this red oil on it. That's why they're red. If it were clean, it would actually, I think, white. So anyway, not worth it. Okay. Included in your induction system, well, the way it goes is first you're going to have an air box, and then you're going to your air cleaner, and then you're going to go to a carburetor heat box if you have a carburetor. And with the carburetor heat box, this is for a small Continental, maybe a small Lycoming. Is there's a flapper valve in there that's kind of shaped like that a little bit. So right now that you can see there's a hole over here. So a pipe is going to come over here. So right now in the cold position, that flapper valve will be blocking this off, and it kind of come down like this and over. So yeah, I didn't want to do that, sorry. Let's see. Kind of like this. runs through the shaft right there, and then up. We'll just go like that. Okay? So cold air comes through here and up. All right? And right now, hot air is coming through here, filling this up, and there's a hole in the bottom, and it's just going out. Just running through.
Hot air from what?
From the exhaust. I'll show you in a
Around
second.
the exhaust, yeah.
All right. Then when I want carb heat, I'm going to change the flapper the other way, and it's going to kind of go more like this. So the hot air is going to come through this way and up into the engine. And the cold air is just not going to go anywhere. Okay, where does that air come from? This particular one is coming off of this. This is more of a crude type. So air just comes into here, and you can see there's the tube right there that's going off to the carb heat. So it's just going to draw air in across across the hot exhaust pipe off in there. Sometimes you're going to get something more like this, where a tube is going to come in with cold fresh air, go on the inside of this, and then out. And this is how you're going to get cabin heat regardless. This could be a cabin heat or it could be carb heat. Sometimes one side is for one side's for the other. So if you take off this shroud, that's what it looks like underneath. And all of these little things are just radiators to get the heat, to heat up the area. Yeah.
I know we talked a couple weeks ago about the podcast where the pilot passed out from exhaust. Is that where it
Yeah.
happened?
If you get a little crack right there, then what happens, and this is going to the cabin heat, the carbon monoxide just comes right out of here and right into the cabin. There's nothing stopping it. It's just a direct shot in.
Is it a one or the other kind of thing, like carb heat or cabin heat, or?
No, one side is
One-
like carb heat, one side's cabin, or like mine, we just have a big one. You have two outlets
Oh, okay.
because I just have one big muffler in the middle. So one's going to go over here to the carb, and then the other one's going to go over to. Mine actually looks more like this for my carb heat, but
Right on top of your leg, right? Or no?
my
I was
cabin
thinking
heat.
of that one plane. That you flew.
Phil, that was Phil.
Oh, that was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Steve was in the back seat freezing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
My carb heat looks like this. No, the cabin heat in my airplane works really, really well. It's like, wow. And I've flown in some cold stuff for me. Okay, so yeah, when you see this, that's definitely carb. Sometimes carbs come off like this, but if you have this and this is cabin, that's carb. If you have two of these, one side's cabin, one side's carb.
So on that top right, is the carb heat like actual exhaust gases?
No.
Or,
See, notice there's no exhaust gas here, and you can't put exhaust gas into the engine. That would be like breathing your own farts. You can't do that for very long. So this is just the hot exhaust pipe coming out of the cylinder, going into the muffler here. So they're just using air flowing across this very hot pipe right here. And it warms the air enough to give you carb heat.
Would that also cool the exhaust a little bit too, or no?
Nah. I suppose it might in that one little spot, but we do. You're not trying to cool exhaust. You don't care anymore.
Exhaust is
Do not look up scat tube.
scat tube.
This is-
Yeah, no.
There's scat and skeet and yeah, seriously, there's all the, and I always have to look it up.
Skid.
And the difference is like, okay, first you have a difference between orange and black. I always go orange because the original black stuff was more of like of a paper, and it corrodes, or it when it disintegrates, it leaves the stainless steel wire in contact with the airplane, which causes massive corrosion. So yeah, my airplane's getting that age where wherever I have that stuff, there's corrosion spots, like where the
Orange
stuff.
one's plastic.
No, it's more of a fiberglass, some sort of fiberglass. It's very tough. And they have it this way, and then there's one that has an inner also. So that's the difference between like skeet and scat. That's not on the test.
Don't look it up.
Yeah. All right, we're not going to cover carb ice, but all right, it's carb ice. We're not. Larry's going to get into carb. Yeah,
Throttle ice.
throttle ice, impact ice. Right, evaporation ice happens here because You guys should know this. Evaporation ice, because you need to heat, latent heat of vaporization to get rid of to vaporize fuel. So you're going to get evaporation ice. You get the throttle ice because as it's evaporating even more so in here, impacting that. And then up here you get that ice that is formed, impacts up here. There is also impact ice in a different form. So you have to understand that if you have this problem inside of your carburetor / intake duct, we'll assume the air is coming in this way and going up. That would make the most sense. That how would I cure this ice problem? Carb heat. Just very simple. But if I'm flying in cold, snowy conditions and I'm getting impact ice hitting my air filter and it starts plugging the air filter, how will carb heat help me get rid of that? It doesn't. So the only thing is you pull carb heat on, which gives you an alternate air source. It pulls the air from inside the cowling, which is warm, into the engines. Now you just run it with carb heat on, which is fine if you're that cold and you're not full power especially. It's not a big deal.
So what do you do then?
You have to pull carb heat on and live with the fact that you just lost your air inlet system.
Oh.
There's nothing you can do about it. You've iced it over. It's gone.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's designed to do that. So what about these aircraft that have fuel injection systems that don't have carb heat? Or pressure carb that doesn't have carb heat? Because they don't need it. Because they don't have throttle ice. They don't have this kind of ice. Now we got a problem. Yeah.
You still get
Well, would it still get fuel evap ice for a pressure car?
No. It's like I have this problem. So they don't even come with. You don't have carb heat, do you? You might.
We do have carb heat on the car. So on our P model Bonanza, we had it was fuel injected.
Then you don't. You just don't have carb heat.
So we didn't have carb heat on that.
No.
Remember, there was a little door that opened.
Alternate air door.
Yeah.
Some of them are manually operated. Was yours manually
I
operated?
don't think it was manually operated, spring loaded kind of
Yep.
thing. And yeah.
So it's with a spring and a magnet.
Too much vacuum.
Yep, when you get too much vacuum suck against the ice, it pops this door open and it draws air in from inside. And then when the air is, when you shut down, it actually closes and stuff. It's kind of cool.
That's cool.
It's an alternate air door. I don't think, I did mention sniffle valves to you guys, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Repeat it.
I don't really
Okay, so on a fuel injection system, you will have, I'm trying to use this picture, which is not fuel injection, but you have a manifold usually, like especially Continental, where they're all coming out of the cylinders and all tying into each other. So at the lowest point, you will have a little valve with a ball in it. And when the engine's not running, the ball falls down
Oh yeah.
and leaves an air path around the ball out. So if you were to run the fuel injection system, you'd actually see fuel just running out of the sniffle valve. And then as you start the engine, that ball gets sucked up into a seat and the vacuum holds it in place so you don't have a vacuum leak. Then when you shut down, the ball falls. Sometimes I find those balls missing and it's just a vacuum leak. More often than not, the balls have frozen into the closed position. There's a thing called leaf daubers. You guys heard of leaf daubers? That's what I call them. Oh, leaf daubers love airplanes. And it's some sort of bug. I don't know what they look like. But they use leaves and saliva, and they get into pitot systems, small openings.
Oh yeah.
They love
Yeah.
small openings, about that big. That seems to be their favorite. And they go in there, and they seem to get way back in there, and they create these nests.
Coons.
Yeah.
Gross.
Oh, yeah, it's
We have them
disgusting.
all by our cabin. They're gross.
Yeah, and they'll still block up. So my first encounter with one, and I told you, shop air, I tend to break a lot of things with shop air. If somebody was going to do me a favor, they would just see me walk around with the hose and be like, you better just, what are you doing, Kevin? In fact, earlier today, I was in the tool room talking to Larry Pappy, trying to convince him to blow shop air through some instruments to see what they would do. I wanted to know, because they're gyro instruments. Like, we should be able to get shop air in there and really get that thing spun up. I was like, come on, man. I even thought about this. I'm like, this is how I screw everything up. So I think it was a Luscombe, a Luscombe, and and it was infra-annual, and it was one of those, hey, yeah, my airspeed indicator doesn't work, and like, okay, So, break off the line and stuff and, try and blow through it. Nothing, man. And I eventually I took it apart enough. I got the shop air and I just it's like 110 psi, and and there's not even a leak, man. It's like I'm holding it, going, wow, this is crazy, man. And then I heard this pow, and something hit the clock, and the clock. Then it. And then I think I'd left some other line connected and blew out an instrument or something. I don't know, but leaf dauber, got it. It's clear now. So, just different exhaust systems.
Broken, but it's clear.
Yeah.
And those things can hold 110 psi behind them.
Oh yeah. So exhaust systems. This is more the style of it's just a small Continental, right? Because it's gold. Typical side by side. This side goes out. No muffler, no nothing. It's just straight through and then down. This has to be an 0200 because it has a vacuum pump right there. And Lycoming, nearly straight. There's not much of a muffler. It's just in and down.
That's a nice looking engine.
It really is. Superior cylinders. I steal stuff off the internet. All right, then we get into, this is a more 4-cylinder, probably Lycoming exhaust. That's what it looks like, where you actually get some sort of muffler. There's not much in there, just a cone, a flame arrestor, really. And what happens is when you're at the airport, you're like executive when I was working there, man. It's just like every day you hear the Lycoming starter, bang, and like overprimed it, flooded this, backfire, exploded out, cause a crack, but they go fly. They don't know. I'm like, man, blow out the flame arrestor inside. Larry's going to talk to you all about that kind of stuff, but they kind of slip together. When you're talking about radial engines, they have they don't still call it, I guess, the exhaust, but you can also call it a collector because it collects the exhaust. And you can see this has got 9 cylinders and 1 outlet. And when it's put together, it has all these slip joints, and it's loose and it rattles, and you think it's going to fall apart because when it heats up and expands, it is really tight. So if you ever see one and it's all loose and nasty, it's supposed to be that way. Yeah. Yep. All right, we're going to get into turbos. This is a Y gate. That's your Y.
Why though?
Because it looks like a Y, doesn't it? So we're going to talk a lot about the Y.
Here's why.
Small R. Yeah, small R.
Okay, the little R. Oh, glad I put this in.
Oh, that was bad.
That killed those people.
V-band?
V-band clamps. There's so many service bulletins and airworthiness directives and all kinds of instructions on these. And when you're doing V-band clamps, especially on turbocharged engines, there's a lot of back pressure that happens because of the turbocharger. And they're held together with a lot of these with these V-band clamps. And so what happens is, and this is how it happens. I don't want to paint this picture like mechanics are just like they don't care. Some don't. They just put it on, tighten it up, call it a day, and move on. But then, you get the very meticulous, look it up in the book. What is my torque? And you find the exact torque, and you're like, all right, you put it on, you're like, click, calibrated, set, good. You know what? I'm going to do it again. I'm just click, I got it. And they'll even put safety wire through back here, crisscross it here, come put safety wire. Man, it's beautiful installation. But they failed to look in the section that said, how do you do it? And in a nutshell, the way you're supposed to do these now is you get these torques. So you put it on, you torque it, and this is the hard part, you're not done. You take it out and you run it, and then you retorque it, and then you run it, and then you retorque it, and you tap it with the hammer, and then you run it and you retorque it, and you keep doing that until when you finally torque it, it doesn't move anymore. Now it's done. So it takes a long time to put these on. You have to really think it through. And
So you have to heat cycle it.
yeah, heat cycle it. You got to do that. And if you don't, what happens, especially because of the turbocharger, when these things come loose, now you have a torch. It's just burning into something. And boy, if it hits a fuel line, it just, and you got to think about, and I know we always say, oh, you just can't get out and call a tow truck, you're flying around the valley. It's fine. There's landing places everywhere. So you lose an engine and do that. But
Flying over a city?
well, unfortunately, that's what happened here. But think it through. Even around here, you saw that picture. I looked outside. It was at 8,000 feet. So If I'm flying along and I'm just at 8,000 feet, you got a pressurized turbocharged Bonanza. I don't know what you're doing at 8,000 feet. You're on your way to something else, either on your way down or on your way up. You don't fly around at 8,000 feet because it takes too much fuel down there. So let's just take my plane. You know, I'm flying around 8,000 feet, and let's just say I'm starting to I smell something. Something's not going right. You know, I'm kind of looking around, trying to diagnose it, and boosh, flames start coming out of the cowling.
That's your problem.
All right. Shut down my fuel. You got to shut down the fuel. I'm going to lose my engine right away. And if the fire goes out, okay, I got a glider. But if the fire doesn't go out at 8,000 feet, I'm going to be in that airplane for the next 15 minutes. What wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you are. It takes a while.
Yeah. I mean, at 8,000 feet, even dropping at a rate of 1,000 feet per minute, I could probably hit, if I'm on fire, I'm going to do at least 2. But 2,000 feet.
And flames on the way down.
You are, yeah. And you're looking for a place. Then you have to extend out your glide because you're trying to make it to an airport. I'm going to say 15 minutes. You got to, so that's,
That's terrible.
yeah.
The smoke there kills you as much as the flame.
I know. These guys are, all right, so it's what you don't know that sometimes kills people. So now you know. Since we're talking about exhaust, this is something that most people don't know, which is funny, and it's really kind of interesting. So exhaust gaskets come in 3 flavors, basically. The third one is rather hard to get, and the guy working on the T-Craft, I suggested he get these. They're kind of a copper with asbestos in between. And the thing I like about those, if you have an uneven surface, they tend to give the most. This is steel with stainless steel winds in it. It's what they call spiral wound or no blow, because in theory they don't blow out. But if you don't have really good surfaces and warped surfaces, then I worry about them sealing real well. Those are the more expensive ones. If you order a cylinder gasket kit or major overhaul gasket kit, you're not going to get these. You're going to get these solid or beaded ones. And this is what's funny. You have a 6-cylinder engine, they're going to send you 12. 4-cylinder, you're going to get 8. And it's so rare to find I don't even know where exactly to look up the directions. It would take me a while to remember where I found this from, unless it won't, because I wrote it down. It's the only place where I've ever seen how to properly install them. Continental gives them, Lycoming gives them out, and it's not in the book. So the beaded style uses 2 beads that are interlocked. So in other words, if you look at them on a profile view, they kind of have that little bead right there, right here, that little bead. They go like this. You use 2 of them. Beads interlock. The bead goes towards the exhaust, the smooth side towards cylinder. I always say smooth side goes towards the expensive part most of the time. And then retorque 29, that's after 25-hour operation. So that's the Lycoming, page 98. I got to say, in my career, when they first came out, one guy'd say, well, you put them like this, and you put RTV in here, the red high-temp RTVs. We did that for a while. Somebody else said, what the heck was it? Well, I guess you can only do this or that. This goes up, this goes down, this goes right, There's all these different ways of doing it. And I finally found that. I'm like, okay, now we know for sure. So I think that's just pretty. It's a centrifugal supercharger of a Bristol Centaurus radial aircraft engine. Isn't that gorgeous?
That is pretty.
All right. Oh, I guess that's what we're going to be talking about, superchargers. All right. So there we go. So there's our primer on that stuff. And I guess we have a few minutes left. Where are we going with this? Let me just see. I told you too many stories for me. What have I missed here? All right, when I talked about this one, this note here, I don't know. It says, the photo I have is from an NTSB investigation room. Mechanic misread an old mark and timed the mags at 50 degrees before top center instead of 22. Engine detonated and quit on takeoff. Got the Permol.
The engine ran all the way up until takeoff.
It quit on takeoff. Buzz box, induction system.
It's like rough running. Those
You'd think.
Yeah.
Sandcastle or
Especially, like,
the,
they're pretty
something.
Yeah, I'm surprised it even ran until Pace.
So I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, but with the exhaust, I think I did. The NTSB is now trying to make the FAA. NTSB makes recommendations to the FAA. NTSB has recommended that the FAA make carbon monoxide detectors mandatory in all light aircraft.
Yeah, you were talking
Yeah.
about that with Harry and his like Ford.
Yeah, I bought one. I bought one.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess that's a good first day back, huh?
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Carbon monoxide cards, like $6 on aircraft.
I used one when I went back east. A friend of mine's like, "Hey, I want you to be safe," and gave me one, but I want one that gives me an audible alarm. And
Yeah, but are they, I mean, do they actually work correctly?
I've heard they work, but you have to be conscious of it and think about it.
Okay, yeah.
They listed it in that podcast, and they're like, it's kind of unreliable almost.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on it.
They're like the audio.
Nope.
I'm just wondering, like, do they actually, how effective